So welcome to my recap of episode 2 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. We're going to dive straight in, so here is your spoiler warning. It's been a day. Coffee is getting me through. So we kick off the episode with Sir Arlen of Pennytree in his birthday suit, in his full, well, I said on the other video, full morning glory. Nick took my eye out. Yes, wasn't expecting that. But again, it disarms the viewer. I just hope nobody was sitting down to like sausage and mash or Toad in the Hole for dinner when this was airing. But in all seriousness, this little flashbacks to Dunk's time with Sir Arlen, it's basically showing us what their relationship was like, the way that he took Dunk under his wing. It gave you a bit of a flavour of who Sir Arlen was. You see kindness, you see compassion, fairness. He's funny and he seems to be loving life. This is a man who has chosen to live a life as a hedge knight, going from place to place and offering his service to people he chooses. He wanted nothing but the open air and a fire to warm his feet at, Dunk says. And that moment of them laughing in the rain, Dunk is basically going through the highlights of Sir Arlen's life, and he's touting up all of the things that he did, fighting during the first Blackfire Rebellion at the Battle of the Red Grass Field. His own nephew died, you know, for the cause. And Dunk is making this plea to Lord Tyrell. And he's kind of like, who? What? Like, why are you bothering me? So Dunk is out of luck. He's got to figure out some way of somebody vouching for him so that he can take part in this tourney. And Egg can kind of sense that there's something off with Dunk. And I mean, first and foremost, it's his grief for Sir Arlen. It's still very raw, very fresh, and it's a change of Dunk being the adult now. He's now taking somebody under his wing. And I appreciated Egg's efforts to kind of cheer Dunk up a little bit. And they have this very natural back and forth banter where Egg is always pushing it just a smidge. He's always being that extra bit cheeky and seeing what he can get away with, and Dunk is always kind of chastising him. And it pains Dunk that he's telling people the story of Sir Arlen and no one's listening. And as time goes on, Dunk, he's not panicking yet, but he's getting kind of desperate. These are meant to be knights of the realm, and he's been told knights, they're the best of the best, they're honourable. So he thinks they'll remember Sir Arlen, and it's very disappointing to Dunk when that's not the case. And the thing I want to mention is both Dunk and Egg have a shared sense of grief. Dunk has lost Sir Arlen, and he was like an orphan boy before that. So he's lost the only family he's known for God knows how many years. And Egg, he mentioned in the first episode that his mother is dead, and that wasn't all that long ago. So they're both dealing with grief in different ways. And this is why I love the Dunk and Egg stories, because they come together when they both need the other person and they both support the other. They're just very in sync with each other. Dunk and Egg, they just click. And Egg says something to Dunk. He's like, why do you bow down to these people? You know, why? What's that all about? And Dunk is like, because they are better than me. You know, that's how it works. That's the society. They come before me. They are seen as the best of the best. I'm just Dunk. And he's determined, you know, it's okay. We're going to keep on going. We're going to persevere. Somebody will remember Sir Arlen. Then they hear the trumpets, which announce the arrival of House Targaryen at the tourney. And I love this scene where they all come bounding in on the horses and the flags are waving and everything. And everybody just kind of stops what they're doing. And the little intake of breath. Yeah, I caught that, Egg. All of a sudden, Egg is like, I'm going to go back to camp. I want to make sure everything is as it was when we left, that no one's pinched anything. Dunk is a bit distracted. He's had a thought and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just don't get in any trouble, basically. Can we have a moment for this guy right here in his finery, in the Ashford colours? He announces the arrival at the tourney of Prince Baelor Targaryen, heir to the throne, eldest son of King Daeron the Good, Prince of Dragonstone, and he's Hand of the King. This guy is the second most important person in the Seven Kingdoms. second only to his father, the king. And then you have Maker, who is Baelor's youngest brother. There's 4 brothers, and we'll get onto that in a second. I do want to mention that it is important for House Targaryen to be at this tourney. They need to make a good impression. They need to remind people who is in charge. So, okay, the king might not come to every single tourney that's held, but very senior members of House Targaryen will. And so you've got Baelor, you've got Maker, and then you've got a bunch of the grandsons of the king. And because they are like guests of honour, people are fawning over them. And it's that not so subtle reminder that, yeah, House Targaryen may not have dragons anymore, but they are still in charge. They do sit on the Iron Throne still. They ride in like their finest armour. Some of it is very elaborate, very ornate. They're making a statement. They've got the flags and everything. Their arrival at Ashford Meadow is a spectacle in and of itself. House Targaryen want people to stop and look in awe and worship the House of the Dragon, because their grip on controlling Westeros, their grip on the Iron Throne, it is secure, but it's on shaky ground. We're only 13 years after a Blackfire rebellion, so House Targaryen needs to do these things to remind people that they are in charge. We see Prince Baelor greeting Lord Ashford and his daughter, Lady Gwyn, and this tourney is to celebrate her name day. And Dunk, he basically is sort of scooching in and trying to see if an opportunity will present itself. He basically is like, I need to ask one of the Targaryens if they can vouch for me. He's really trying to shoot his shot here because he doesn't have much time to find somebody who will vouch for him. So he's going to the head honchos. He's going right to the top. In Dunk's head, a true honourable knight, like what they say, you know, the Targaryen knights are, should be doing the right thing. And of course they will help out and lend assistance. Now, Dunk is then kind of interrupted when there is another Targaryen prince who trots in. And this guy is Prince Aerion of House Targaryen. He is the second son of Prince Maker. So he is the grandson of the king. And he mistakes Dunk for a stable boy. I mean, he doesn't really even look in Dunk's direction properly. Now, Dunk says, I'm a knight, actually. And Aerion makes a point of being like, you're a knight? They must let anybody be a knight these days. And it just goes to show the stereotypes that some people have about what it means to be a real knight. That if you don't have a title or a fancy name, that you're not worth anything. And of course, we know that's not true. That's the heart of the story of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's like, you know, a rose by any other name still smells as sweet. It doesn't matter if you have the name or you have the land and the titles and all the fancy stuff. It doesn't matter about all of that. It matters who you are and what you stand up for. Do you stand up for the right thing? Or are you a coward who just looks the other way? I also liked the moment with Dunk and the horse. Aerion's horse is like a bucking bronco, kicks some bloke in the head, and everyone's like, get back, get back. And Dunk does not hesitate to step forward and to comfort the horse and calm her down. And he takes her off into the corner, like, you've been ridden for a while, you need a rest, let's get you away from all the commotion. And that's Dunk right there. Like, he didn't have to step in, but he did because it was the right thing to do. And Dunk has a soft spot for animals, but particularly for horses. Now, when he's tending to the horse, that's when he meets 2 members of the King's Guard, and they are there to escort the Targaryens to the tourney. And you've got Sir Roland of House Crakehall, and he introduces his mate, Sir Donal of Duskendale. I really liked seeing this actor, Bill Ward, because I remembered him way back in the day in Coronation Street, where he was the boyfriend of Tracy Barlow, and she whacked him on the head with a candlestick and she killed him and she went to prison. I love seeing British soap actors, who are some of the best actors that we have in this country, doing well and being on shows like this. Now, Sir Donal, he kind of jokes around and he gets a sense that Dunk is pretty naive, and he's like, okay, I can have a little bit of fun here. And he basically winds Dunk up. He can tell from looking at Dunk, it doesn't take a genius to work out Dunk doesn't have a lot to his name. He doesn't look like he's part of a noble house, to say the least. So it's pretty obvious that this is a guy who's down on his luck. And they basically decide to have a bit of a joke at Dunk's expense. And Sir Donald is like, I come from crabbers. And Dunk is like, oh, okay, well, that means that, maybe anybody could rise to be, a knight of the King's Guard, which is true. Anyone, any knight can be a knight of the King's Guard. You don't have to be highborn. But at the same time, in Dunk's mind, that's a dream within a dream within a dream. Like, he's not thinking that far ahead. He just wants to get into the tourney. So Dunk, he seizes his chance and he makes his way into the castle. And this is the thing with Dunk. He gets himself into situations where he's not really meant to be there, but it just kind of happens. And he has to take this risk, and he winds up pretty close to where the Targaryens have walked in, and they're sort of sitting down and getting comfy after their journey. And Lord Ashford mentions that there are 2 missing Targaryen princes. 2 of Maker's sons, they haven't turned up. They're meant to be here, but they haven't arrived. Maker makes a comment that it was their father, Daeron II, who's told them, oh, you've got to go. You've got to represent us at this tourney. And he seems a bit irritated, like he probably has other things, better things to do. And Baelor says, this is not the first time that Daeron has done this kind of thing. And he also says, you shouldn't have told him to enter the tourney. And Dunk is listening in to all of this, and he gets caught by Lady Ashford. She can't help but tease Dunk as well. Now, we learn that the princes, they're only missing as of the day before. Baelor is confident that one of the King's Guard will find them and it'll all be fine. If they find one son, then the other one won't be far behind. It'll all be all right. And Baelor makes a comment that Daeron, one of the missing sons, he doesn't belong at a tourney. He says that he belongs on a tourney field as much as Aerys or Rhaegal. Who are they, I hear you ask? Well, Aerys and Rhaegal are Maker and Baelor's 2 other brothers. There's 4 brothers in total, and those 2 are not really into tourneys. Rhaegal is like a little, well, he might have been a dragon dreamer and driven mad. He's known as like the crazy one. And Aerys, he was more interested in like his books and things. Yeah, he could take or leave a tourney. He wasn't fussed. But Baelor and Maker, they are the warrior brothers, so they go to represent. I do not need to be reminded of my son's failings, Maker says. He can change, he will change, gods be damned, or I swear I'll see him dead. Now, 2 things. Micah is irritated because he doesn't need this headache. Like, his sons were just meant to make their own way. They weren't meant to go off on adventures. But he's also genuinely concerned. Like, he doesn't like the fact that he doesn't know where his kids are. I mean, this is his firstborn son and his youngest son. No father wants to not know where their kids are. So Maker is a little tetchy and he's a worried dad. That's how I took it. Then Maker spots Dunk listening in to this entire conversation and he's like, oh, you! And Dunk has to approach the Targaryens, and this is so inappropriate. Like, Dunk should not be there, and especially like eavesdropping on princes. You can't be doing that. So he's kind of a little bit in trouble. They could reprimand him if they chose. But Dunk is like, I'm so sorry, but he takes his chance and he says, I need someone to help vouch for me. I need to be able to enter this tourney. Maker was like, what is happening? What is going on? Who are you? What do you want? What is happening? And interestingly, Baelor handles it in a completely different way to his brother. He's like, now, we are intruders, we are guests here. And he hears Dunk out. Where Maker is kind of dismissive and distracted by other things, Baelor is a lot more calm, more assured, and he's intrigued. And Dunk takes his chance and he speaks directly to Prince Baelor. This is the heir to the throne. Like, Dunk is kind of pushing his luck, even speaking out loud. Like, he shouldn't even be there. So this is a big deal. And he takes his chance and he says, Sir Arlen of Pennytree, is there any chance you remember him? He remembered you. And Baelor, to his credit, is like, yeah, I do remember Sir Arlen. And he goes through this story and he's like, oh yeah, it was 4 lancers. And Dunk is like, oh no, it was 7. And even Maker got a little tickle out of that. When Maker says to Baelor, how do you remember a hedge knight from years ago. And Baelor is like, well, I make it my business to know my enemies, even though Sir Arlen wasn't really an enemy. He was just, it was the luck of the draw. The thing with Baelor is he's different from his brothers because he has different responsibilities. As the heir to the throne, he's been raised since he was a baby to one day inherit from his father. There's a whole story with his father and his grandfather and his half uncle. There's a lot of drama in the Targaryens' recent past, but Baelor has been trained to one day inherit the Iron Throne, and part of that is his diplomacy. He's not as brash as Maker is. He's smoother and he can handle situations in a more calm way. Ironically, the thing that really helps Dunk is he puts his foot in his mouth. He kind of says the wrong thing, and it's something that in a normal situation you might get in trouble for, but he gets away with it because you can just tell he doesn't have any malice behind it. Like when he says, you know, oh, I hope the kids are found. I hope they're not dead. And it's like, why would you say that? Maker's like, did you just say that? But Dunk doesn't think before he speaks. And that kind of disarms the Targaryens, and even Lord Ashford and Plummer, who was there. They're kind of like, yeah, we don't need to really worry about this guy. He's not a threat in any way, shape or form. He's a big lad. He does just want to compete. He's not like a problem. When Dunk said to Baelor that Sir Arlen had said, you know, the Seven Kingdoms will be in good hands one day when he becomes king, and Baelor kind of makes a joke like, oh yes, but you know, not for many years yet, and it's the kind of thing where Dunk is like, he doesn't mean to say something that could be offensive. It's just his awkward way, but it works because they don't view him as a threat. They probably think he's just some dumb lad who just wants a shot. And Baelor agrees that Dunk can participate in the tourney. He's pulled it off. He took his shot and it worked. And I think part of the reason is Baelor is a good guy. I think he has the right intentions. And he also is somebody who's like, let's give this guy a chance. What's the harm? And Baelor respects a good, honest competitor. Like, yeah, let's just go toe to toe. So Dunk's got what he wanted. He's allowed to compete in the tourney. And then it's like, okay, you have to leave now, Dunk. You've overstayed your welcome. Maker is a bit gruff, but in fairness, the man is stressing about these damn kids. So we'll give Maker a pass. And Baelor is like, forgive my brother. The kids have gone astray. It's the way that Dunk speaks so candidly and so frankly to Targaryens who are used to people very carefully choosing their words. Like, they're used to people sucking up to them and saying all the right things. It's rare. It's rare for somebody to say the wrong thing, the inappropriate thing. They're not used to that. And you can just see on Maker's face, he's like, what? And on Baelor's face, I think he finds it kind of funny. Now, moving on to Dunk celebrating with Egg, like, yes, you know, I'm in. And he goes to a puppet show that's taken place, and it is Florian the Fool and Jonkill, and everyone's having a great time. Egg is loving life, he's laughing away, and Dunk is mesmerised by the puppeteer. After the show is done, they approach this girl and they say, well, Egg says, how do you do that? How do you make the dragon breathe flames? I've never seen puppets so big. Like, they're basically singing her praises. And she shows him how she does the trick. And Egg is like, oh, wow. And he goes like, is that pollen? And she's like, yeah, you know, we collect it as we travel. I mean, maybe a young kid would know that, but also maybe it shows that Egg has maybe a preoccupation with fire, potentially. Now, Dunk is very bashful. He's like standing there awkwardly, doesn't really know what to say. He's got a huge crush on this girl, and he manages to ask her, would you be able to paint a sigil on my shield? Because Prince Baelor had said, look, you're not of Sir Arlen's blood, so we are giving you this chance, but you're going to have to come up with your own sigil. So he asks this girl, can you do this for me? Can you paint the shield? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. What do you have in mind? And Dunk is like, and he's scrambling to think of something in the moment. And eventually he's like, sunsets. So Arlen loved sunsets. We'll go with that. And then Egg, he's like, oh, what about a tree? And Dunk says, yeah, we'll do that. And a shooting star. Can you do that? And she says, yeah, no problem. And she introduces herself as Tansel, aka Tansel Too Tall, as she used to be called. When Dunk says, you're not too tall. The comedy on this show, it's just natural. It just works. You've got Dunk trying his best to be smooth, and it's never going to be his way. He's always going to be awkward and bashful and kind of lumbering into things. So we've got this scene of them sitting there and they're watching as they set up a tug of war. And Egg reveals, like, you know, maybe I could be a knight one day, but, you know, I'm kind of puny. People tell me that all the time. That's a little crumb, a little nugget of information to just file away for later. He's been kind of put down as inferior, like not tough enough, not strong enough, you know, in his words, puny. So they're watching the tug of war be set up, and Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm, who Dunk had a whale of a time with in episode 1, he notices Dunk and he's like, yeah, I want you on my team. He's like, Hedge Knight, you come here. And so Dunk and Egg join in, and you've got the two sides, everyone's ready, and then it's like, okay, it's go time. So everyone's pulling on the rope, and then Lionel takes a breather, and Dunk is like, Lionel, where are you going? What are you doing? Come back. And it is so typical Lionel Baratheon. It is so him. Now, he does eventually get back in and start pulling again, but it's a back and forth, and you've got little Egg, basically, he's just putting all of his weight onto the rope, trying his best. He's dangling there like a rotisserie chicken, and eventually their side wins, and you've got this moment where Dunk and Egg and Lionel are all jumping around, cheering. I just love that. It just sums up that you can be different people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different expectations on your shoulders, but you're also just people at the end of the day. Now, it's evening time, and Dunk is walking around the grounds, and he stumbles across the armourer, and this is a man called Steely Pate, and he doesn't do anything super flash. He's not doing, you know, fancy sculpted armour that would look good but might not actually keep you safe. He does simple stuff, but it's effective. It's value for money armour. And you can sense that he looks at Dunk and he kind of feels not sorry for Dunk, but he looks at him like, you know, if I can give you a break, I will. And he does offer Dunk a discount, but even then the price is still insane. And Dunk, he puts down a deposit and he's got to figure out a way to pay for the rest. And that's when he has to think about, well, what assets do I have? He's got 3 horses. He's standing there looking at the tourney grounds next to Sweetfoot, the white horse. And Dunk, I knew this scene was gonna happen, and I was dreading it because I knew I'd be upset. It's always the animals, it's always the horses. It was just so sad, and it was like, I know what he's going to say. He's going to say I've got to sell the horse in order to pay for my armour, in order to win the tourney. If I don't do that, I don't stand a chance. So Dunk is very reluctant to do this. And he says, as soon as I can, I'll buy you back. I promise. Best girl. Like, I was just like, oh no. And he really doesn't want to have to do this. He loves the horses, all of them, and he makes sure to give the guy some coin to make sure that Sweetfoot has some oats and an apple. Even when Dunk needs every penny for himself, he's thinking about the horse. That's who Dunk is. He's a good man. And selling the horse, it's horrible. It's genuinely painful for Dunk. And he's like, right, well, we're in it now, you know. We're going to have to go for it and give it our best shot. There's no backing out. And he explains to Egg, you know, my hope is if I can do well here, if I can even win, I could come to the attention of a really great house, a noble house. And that could be my stepping stone. And I could serve with all of these great houses, maybe even House Targaryen, you never know. When he mentions House Targaryen, Egg does try and change the subject. So it's pretty convenient when there's a commotion and it's basically heralding the beginning of that night's events, and everyone rushes over to the tourney grounds, and you see all of these knights in their finest armour. You've got House Tully represented, you've got the Lannisters, you've got the Hightowers, you've got the Tyrells, and Dunk puts Egg up on his shoulders so he can see the whole thing, and Egg is staring straight at the platform where the Targaryens sit centre stage. You've got Prince Baelor, Prince Maker, Prince Aerion. Everyone's very excited. It's all about to start. You've got the Laughing-Storm. He's there with the big antler helm, head to toe in the yellow, gold, black of House Baratheon. And then we see this guy, Prince Valar of House Targaryen. And he has some pretty sick armour. Like, it looks good. And it's interesting that Dunk is like, who is that? And Egg, who's this kid who's like from nowhere, he knows who that is. Oh, that's Prince Valar. He's Prince Baelor's son. He's second in line to the Iron Throne. It does start to kind of occur to Dunk, how do you know that? But it's not something he lingers on. So the trumpet blows and it begins, and you've got all of these knights on their horses charging with their lances, and we get this action scene of people being unhorsed, people falling under their horses, lances smashing, shields flying all over the place, and the crowd was going wild. Everyone's drinking, everyone's having a great time. This is what everyone's gathered to see, and Dunk is enjoying himself. But then it starts to dawn on him. He's like, what have I got myself into here? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to compete in a tourney and I'm going to win. But seeing these very talented knights, and in Dunk's head, the hierarchy is, if you're highborn, you're surely the best of the best. So seeing some of them unhorsed, it starts to bring home to Dunk exactly what he signed up for. And he's a little nervous, to say the least. He could very well die in this tourney, so it is life and death for Dunk. If he wins, it's life-changing, but there is a big risk. He's like, Sir Arlen lived for 60 years and he never won a tourney. What chance do I have? But Dunk is like, you know what? This is the thing that Arlen was trying to instill into me about being a hedge knight, and how actually a hedge knight is the most honourable type of knight, because you choose who you serve. There are some bad hedge knights that are exploitative and opportunistic and probably tantamount to criminals, but then you have hedge knights like Sir Arlen who just want to do their duty, they want to serve, they want it to be fair. And it bothers Dunk a lot that all of these so-called great knights of the realm can't even be bothered to remember someone like Sir Arlen, who served for various houses. He suffered for these houses, lost family members in the Blackfire Rebellion, took injuries himself, and they don't even remember him. And it's kind of a wake-up call for Dunk. It's his introduction into the Game of Thrones, as it were, because he's now starting to see how this all works. And he wants to make a point. He's like, I want to make sure Sir Arlen's life is not a waste. He spent all this time training me up and teaching me things. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for him as well as myself. And when they're back at their little campsite, Egg, firstly, I love that he's just fighting with the sword, trying to slay imaginary Blackfire pretenders. Love that. But he notices that Dunk is not okay. Something is off. And he's sort of gently nudging Dunk to share. And bear in mind, they've only just met each other, but they're already bonding. And Dunk is like, look, yeah, seeing all that tonight, it's hit home. And yeah, I am a little nervous. But he knows he has to take this chance. When he said, Sir Arlen, he wasn't the most famous knight in the realm, but he was a true knight. He was good to the very end. He taught Dunk everything Dunk knew. He saved Dunk in many ways, and he was a father figure. And now Dunk, he's trying to honour Sir Arlen's memory. So whilst people like Lionel Baratheon have come to this tourney to have fun, and there's not really any stakes at play, for Dunk, it couldn't be more life or death. And that's pushing him. That's going to motivate him more than some of these other competitors who might get a bit complacent. It's not life and death to them. So are they going to fight to the end? Are they going to have the same gusto? Are they going to have the same oomph? Or will Dunk be able to push them all aside because he wants it more? Now, that is episode 2. I do want to know your thoughts. I want to know favourite moments, favourite character introductions. What do you think is going to happen in episode 3? I think the theme of this episode is why Dunk is so determined. He's doing this because it's survival, first and foremost. It's the best chance he has at success. But he also wants to prove a point about what Sir Arlen's life represented. And that's kind of getting fused with Dunk's life. And together, their stories are intertwined. You can't have Dunk without Sir Arlen. And people need to respect hedge knights, but they don't. And that's part of what Dunk is doing. He's trying to break the stereotype. Not all hedge knights are useless. They're not people to look down your nose on. Some of them are very honourable indeed. And Dunk is going to prove it to you. He's going to prove you don't need a fancy title. You don't need to be the Lord of blah-de-blah. You could be a regular person, but if you train well and if your heart's in the right place and you do the right thing, you can be the most honourable kind of knight there is.